Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Afternoons with the Ambassador. And I obviously am your host, the Ambassador. Glad you all could tune in today. And today we are going to resume our Babylon 5 review series. Going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 1 of Babylon 5, Midnight on the Firing Line. And as of right now, it is just me. I am flying solo, which I've done before, not afraid to do it. So we're going to just hop right into this, folks. And hope y'all, as y'all are coming in, hope y'all enjoy the stream. Hope y'all enjoy the show. And we'll just go ahead and jump right into our topic and everything. Babylon 5, Season 1, Episode 1, Midnight on the Firing Line. And what we have today with this episode, this is the opening chapter, the opening melody of J. Michael Straczynski's grand opus known as Babylon 5. And honestly, when I actually saw this episode in reruns way back in the day, and it has been... I just rewatched this yesterday in preparation for this, and I had kind of forgotten a lot of the little intricacies of this episode, just how masterfully J. Michael Straczynski had begun his show, in particular with this first formal episode and everything, right after the success of the pilot, The Gathering. And we've got the whole cast of characters here. We've got Commander Jeffrey Sinclair, played by Michael O'Hare. We've got Susan Ivanova, played by Claudia Christensen. We've got Michael Garibaldi, played by the late, great Jerry Doyle. We've got all the ambassadors here. We've got Delenn. We've got G'Kar. We've got Londo Mollari. We've got, of course, the man from Midnight himself, Ambassador Kosh of the Vorlon Empire. And what we have with this episode, actually, this episode just ramps the tension up to 11. Straczynski did not waste any time with this particular episode. He just kind of went full steam ahead. He started right off with a big... Oh, and we have our guest.
I am sorry for being late. It has been a rough day.
Right. I understand. It's okay. I know you've been busy this past weekend. So no worries whatsoever, sir. Oh, and hey, got another one. All right. And Mr. Geek, greetings. Glad you could join us. Okay.
Oh, I don't have headphones on. Sorry, I was.
No worries. No worries.
Muting it first. I didn't know what was going on.
That's okay. I don't know if you saw what I put in the message. We're talking about Season 1, Episode 1 of Babylon 5, Midnight on the Firing Line.
Ooh, okay. Where's everybody at? Is it just the three of us?
As of right now, yeah. Everything. I didn't have a chance. I had kind of a crazy morning. I didn't get a chance to put everything out and get everybody like, hey, come on over, watch, and everything. So right now, it's just the three of us, and people will pour in as they get here. So,
hey, thanks for listening, Ambassador.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
you're very welcome.
Hey, I'm just getting back into my routine. I spent 2 weeks out helping my daughter move into a new apartment. So, and that's 12 hours away. So that was a lot of work.
I can imagine.
So what was the episode?
I'm going in chronological order. I'm doing Season 1, Episode 1 of Babylon 5, Midnight on the Firing Line.
Oh, so the first episode after the pilot?
Yep.
Yeah.
And there he is, the man himself.
When Susan shows up, right? Oh, yeah. This is the one where Susan Ivanova showed up. That's the one where Susan Ivanova showed up.
Yes, first time we see her.
This is the first time we meet Susan Ivanova. Next episode, we get Stephen Franklin brought on board. But today, this episode, so you have the switch between Takashima and Susan Ivanova. She becomes second in command on B5.
This is also the one where, was it this one or was it the pilot he saw the Vorlon? The first Doctor saw the Vorlon. Sorry, man, it's been a while. I'm a little...
No, it's okay. No, it was in the pilot where Dr. Kyle had seen Kosh and everything, where they opened his suit, and it's also where Lita Alexander had seen seen Kosh as well. And everything, and
People
that's
forget
where
she
that's
was
what
in the pilot too.
Hmm?
People forget
Hey,
she was in
Trey.
the pilot.
Yeah. So
Hey, Ambassador, I'm gonna go get some buds for my ears.
okay, that's fine. No worries.
Don't take my
Guy-
mic out.
And to Axonar Comics, welcome, sir. Glad you could be here, Trey. And congratulations on all the success for Axonar proper and XR Comics and everything. I actually watched part of the stream yesterday where they were announcing the new trailer for the next installment and everything in the Axonar saga, and I'm also really excited. So,
You did get to see the trailer, right?
oh, I did, yeah. It looks good. It looks so good.
I had such a rough day yesterday, and to see that, I was like, oh yeah, that was good.
It was very good, yeah. So I'm honestly seriously excited for Axonar. Granted, considering everything else is getting pushed back, and to Captain Trek popping in, thank you for
Hey,
being
Captain.
here. Aye, Captain. So, but I just literally just gotten started a few minutes ago going into the episode, so we can just rewind a little bit and then get right back on course. So no worries. So, but yeah, I actually rewatched this episode yesterday and everything. I actually watched a couple and everything in preparation for the next few streams and everything I do on B5. But yeah, honestly, I have been raring to go on getting back into Babylon 5. It has been such a long time talking about this and discussing it. Now that I have people with me and everything to discuss this as well, it's a lot more fun. Everything. Not that I didn't enjoy doing all the character discussion and reviews that I did previously, but it's nice to have some other minds and everything to talk about the series itself and everything. So, with this episode, as I started to say, Straczynski starts to build his. Well, he started building a universe in the Gathering in the pilot, but in this one, you start to get a lot more foundation built. You start seeing the conflict between the Narns and the Centauri ramp up. You've got the Earth Alliance in the middle of that whole mess. You've got the election between Santiago and Marie Crane, and you've got the beginning of the butting of heads between Susan Avava and Talia Winters, or the Psychor itself and Talia Winters. And to the chat again, Teresa Martin, welcome. Glad you could be here, ma'am. So,
Hey, Teresa.
yeah. So, y'all's thoughts or anything on this episode or anything? I know nobody. Is it okay if I just call you Mr. Geek? Is that cool?
Works for me. You can call
Okay.
me. You can call me. You can call me. Hey, Ambassador. You can call me Jesse. I don't hide my my regular
Okay.
name because it pops up
Okay.
every other time. Most people have made the
Okay.
comparison between the two now.
Okay. All right. Well, Adega, Jesse, your thoughts on this episode? For however much you may or may not remember, do you need me to give a brief synopsis and
No,
then we'll?
first thing first with it is you could tell that there was definitely a budget difference because the camera quality went up and
Yeah.
the CGI went up.
Mhm.
So right off
Very
the
much
jump,
so.
you know, there was some odds and ends, like they had different. You could catch every once in a while a sidearm, if I believe right, and you notice that they
Yeah,
had changed those from
yeah.
those big beasts that they had into the little PPGs.
Yeah,
Um,
honestly, I honestly like the PPGs better than what they had in the pilot, truthfully. So, and I even liked later on when they had the PPG rifles. So those are actually, they were realistic. It was different from the phasers that you see in Star Trek and what have you, but it's a realistic progression of technology or anything for something that we might have in the future. So.
For me, I would say one of the best things that I loved about that pilot to kind of introduce it, and as much as I remember, and it's been a while. I'm on a Star Trek binge right now. I'm on DS9, so I'm going through DS9, VOY, ENT, and then I'm ending it with the best TOS because I've already finished TNG. And then I think I'm actually going to hit B5. You got me thinking about that show again, and it was one. So my thoughts on it. At first, I'm going to be like a lot of other people. It came out, what was it, 95, 94?
Somewhere along in there, yeah. That sounds about
So
right.
Okay, so I was 14, 15 at the time. So I was relatively young. And I thought, okay, I didn't know the story behind the scenes at the time. I just thought, oh, we're getting a DS9 ripoff. Now, mind you, I've heard a lot of the behind the scenes since then in the last long time. But, I thought like a lot of people. And I started watching it, and I'm like, okay, from the pilot to the episode, what I liked, I'm going to say the changing of how Drakkar and Delenn's characters looked. I think that the quality was better the second time around on the prosthetics and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought Delenn, did I say the wrong part? Did I say Delenn, or who did I say? I know I
Yeah,
said
you got it
Delenn.
right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Because the only thing they really changed on Londo was the hair. That was the main thing they changed on was the hair on Londo and everything, because it looked better on in the series itself than it did in the pilot. So,
but they kind of originally, one of my favorite. I liked the prosthetics they did differently. I spent more time, I think, because I was a little more used to the prop stuff, watching Star Trek and some Doctor Who at the time. I'm not a Whovian by any stretch of the imagination, but I am a diehard Trekkie. There's just no way around it. I thought that I liked what they did. I liked the fact that they didn't try to mimic Star Trek. They took something. Straczynski was a genius in the long haul, and as far as world building. I mean, he took the idea of a serialized story, something we relatively never heard of. Now everybody uses it, but prosthetics was a big thing I was watching. I didn't pay a lot to the CGI back then, just because it was so new and I was so young to the concept. But those were good. Best part of that pilot, getting introduced to Susan Ivanova. Her character was just by far one of my favorites. She came off as just this presence, and I don't remember if it was this episode or not, but I remember her talking with Garibaldi about something, and he's like, what was it he said? You're a pessimist. She goes, I'm Russian. We understand these things.
Actually, it was Sinclair that she was talking to.
Oh, okay.
Because they were talking. I think if I remember correctly, they were talking about the election, or they were talking about the whole situation between the Narn and the Centauri, and how Earth wasn't trying to get involved with the whole war between the Narn and the Centauri, because Earth had just gotten out of war with the Minbari and everything, and they didn't need I think it was the senator or whoever Sinclair was talking to. The senator was saying, we just got out of a war that we almost lost. We don't need to get in the middle of another. Earth needs to stay neutral, at least until the elections are over. And it's funny the fact that the senator kept bringing up the fact that the elections were coming up. And he's like, at least forestall the vote until after the elections. And Sinclair's like, no, we're going ahead. We're going forward with this. And y'all can stick it, in a manner of speaking. So, but yeah.
Yeah, she was one of my absolute, and you know what was great about her, and I'm just going to throw this out there, that was a strong female character.
I was just about to say
that. You didn't need to be told.
No, I was just going to say the same thing, because throughout the whole series, she wasn't afraid of anything except relationships. She had a weak side. She wasn't Mary Sue. She had things that, like I said, relationships were the things that she feared, and she also had a background that showed why she didn't fear, because her dad dying, her brother dying, the Psi Corps, all of that. She was a whole person, a real person you could relate to, and you don't want to turn your back on.
No, because she will kick your ass, and she'll kick it hard. I mean, I will say in a couple episodes, I love the part where they go down to Epsilon 3, I think it is, or Epsilon 9, the planet there, and there she's lecturing the scientists. She's like, I want you to remember this mantra. I will listen to Ivanova. Ivanova is never wrong. Ivanova is God. and being the good, and I don't say this to be snide or anything, but being the good Jew, she looks up and she's like, sorry, no offense intended.
And that was the key thing. I'm sorry, Ambassador. That was a key point too. I loved about this show. And this is getting ahead of it, but think about this: when they had that whole thing about faith and everything, her faith was even tested, and you saw this throughout it. I mean, they took religion and just
Yeah.
did it, I think, in a natural, right way. Yes, people of faith get tested in their faith, and sometimes they lose faith and they have to get back to it. And this is a very important part of a personal life for people.
Yeah, they had the Jewish, they had the Catholic, they had Stephen's
Shinto.
religion. I can't remember exactly. Fundamentalist,
The foundationalist.
foundationalist. Yes.
Yeah, he's a
And each one of
foundationalist.
them was tried in a different way. You know.
Mhm. Yeah, and
It was
well, getting back to the episode, the one thing that I really enjoyed was, and I know most people may not like this per se, but I like the duplicity of Jakar in the episode. I do. I love that touch of duplicity in Jakar's actions. And then when he gets owned at the end of the episode, he gets so frustrated, so flummoxed, and you're like,
Was that the
just a
beep
little
beep?
punk. Huh?
Was that the beep beep reference?
No, I think that's that.
Beep Beep
No.
was in the pilot.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, and I
Beep Beep
yeah
must be
yeah
Earth humor.
yeah Earth humor. I never could understand it. No, Jakar was supplying weapons to the Raiders in the pilot episode because the Raiders were a common threat and everything throughout the first couple of seasons, and then they get wiped out eventually. No huge spoiler there, really. But there are a few spoilers as to how they get wiped out, which I won't say here.
Oh,
But I honestly like this episode because there's a lot of political intrigue, and I think that's one of the great strengths of B5 is the fact that there is a lot of political intrigue in this episode and in the series overall. Because politics and society amongst different cultures plays a very strong role in Babylon 5. And I think that's one of the strengths of the series. Anything, Adega, we'll wait for Jesse to come back in. Your thoughts on that?
No, it just you got into the politics. It was one of the first scenes where you actually get to see the full council. You saw all the non-aligned worlds representatives, and then you saw the 5 main ambassadors for those who made up the ruling council of B5.
There we
I
go.
thought for a second we were seeing double.
No. Okay.
I hit the power button by mistake.
That's okay.
But when I watched it, well, I can't tell you how many times I've watched it, but one key thing about writing when you're doing a pilot, and some of these, even really good shows have failed at this, where you say, oh, you got to get halfway through the season or so on. This one has enough action and enough questions to get you hooked. It at least did for me right off the jump.
Yeah.
It wasn't a slow start. You know, it didn't have to do as much world building as it did personality building. You get hooked on why they were there. I think it was the very next episode when they did the whole thing with Susan and her dad. You know, so they
let's see,
may have been episode 3, but
I think
either
it was
way,
episode
they
3. Episode 3 is Born to the Purple. That might be episode 3.
Yeah,
I watched
that's what it was.
episode 2 was Soul Hunter.
Soul Hunter. Oh God, I love that episode.
Yeah, because they have one of my favorite actors in the episode, but we'll get to the episode when we get to it. The one thing I loved about this first episode, it also establishes a lot of the major character traits for the characters, especially Ambassador Kosh. I love Kosh. What can I say? I used to call myself Ambassador Kosh on my channel before I got bigger. Not just the ambassador, but anyway, I love his comments to Sinclair there in his quarters or anything, because Sinclair goes in, he's like, Ambassador, can I speak to you? And you don't see Kosh, obviously. You see that light behind his screen or whatever it is there in his quarters. And he's like, they are a dying people. They should be allowed to pass. And Sinclair says, who? The Nara, the Centauri? And Kosh simply says, yes.
There was a whole lot to that scene. I mean, that whole scene was foreshadowing. What is a
Yeah.
Vorlon? How in the heck does he move so fast and get that countersuit? Why does he
Mhm.
not consider the Narn or the Centauri worth saving? You know, there was just a ton of stuff that was going to come up in season
Eventually.
3.
Yeah, because Kosh could see the long play. He could see the long road of this whole mess and everything. He's like, I forget who said it and everything. They've been killing each other for centuries, and they're just going to eventually wipe each other out. Now we don't. Now, Daggy, you may be able to fill in gaps here that I can't and everything. Do the Narn and the Centauri ever reconcile to any extent? Is Vera ever able to?
Yes,
Is anybody?
yes.
Okay.
Vera makes serious inroads into peace. I mean, they work really well together.
Okay.
It actually was not too long after he took the throne past. No, it was within a year of Malari's death.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you mean post the show? Gotcha.
But in case you guys didn't know, that's from the books.
Yeah, I figured that was because you read the books. I hadn't had a chance to. So, and Jesse, we're having a little trouble hearing you. You might check your audio. So,
I didn't know he was trying to talk. I couldn't hear anything.
yeah, he's. So, but he's fixing his audio. I think the other interesting aspect of this episode is you get a very strong sense of who Sinclair is as a person. And I think, granted, we had him in the pilot, but it just continues. You get more of his backstory, you get more of his family's history, and so on, and you get a much better picture of who he is and everything. He's not. Go ahead.
He makes that excuse to get in a fighter pilot so he can avoid the diplomatic situation. Now, the first time through, I didn't think much about it, but he was on the line. He has always been a fighter pilot, and he was considered a hero, and he's one of their best. So for him to make a political excuse to get into he's gone. To get into the cockpit and go hunt down raiders. That was nothing for him. These guys, he could have probably taken out their whole squadron by himself simply because of his experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so it was a real good excuse.
Well, yeah, and the other thing that he mentioned that his father was the fighter pilot and everything. Sinclair's have been fighter pilots all the way to back to the Battle of Britain, and you consider how long that's been. That's a long family legacy and everything. So, you see the side of Sinclair that's more of the soldier than he is the diplomat, but you realize he does have diplomatic skill, but it's not his strong suit. And that, I think, for me, is one of the great layers to Sinclair. The thing now, there's an interesting, once we get into season 2, we get Sheridan and everything. You get that kind of same dichotomy and everything, but the thing is, he can be a diplomat. He can play the political game, the diplomatic game, and everything. But for Sinclair, he's first and foremost, he was a fighter pilot. He was a soldier. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't a diplomat of any stripe. But he's there. He's going to do the best job that he knows how to do. He believes in the mission of Babylon 5 because he sees what can happen when lines of communication break down between races. Because he's trying to get the Centauri and the Narn to try and not go to war again, even though the Narn have obviously struck first here at the very beginning of this episode when they strike this colony, Ragesh 3, that's on the border between Centauri and Narn space. And you see that very cynical side of Malari come out. He's like, it's all a paper fantasy. It's all lines on a map. It's all treaties and words. And in the end, Malari nails it right on the head. Blood calls out for blood because his nephew wanted to be in public service. He wanted to be in the military or whatever, and Londo gets him that position as a head researcher or whatever there on Rogage 3. And Malari holds himself responsible for this, but at the same time, he's rightfully ticked and everything at the Narn for what they've done and everything. And he's like, when they're there in the conference and everything to get ready to take the vote, and they have that piped in vid and everything from that piped in statement from Londo that's being read by Londo's nephew. And if anybody with a pair of eyes can see that the guy's probably got a gun to his head or his life's been threatened or whatever, but nobody wants to see it except for Londo. And then G'Kar starts throwing shade at him and everything because somehow or another G'Kar has gotten wind that none of the other races will back the Centauri. So.
Well, the Centauri weren't exactly friendly to most of those other races anyway. They had picked on everybody on and off for centuries except for the Minbari.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why they didn't pick on the humans is because the humans would have taught them a lesson.
Probably. I mean, we held the Dilgar, and if you figured that the Dilgar and the Centauri were on the same technological level, we probably could have whipped the Centauri too. More than likely. I mean, the Centauri were advanced and everything, but I don't think they were so advanced that we couldn't have knocked the stuffing out of them. Or at least give them a really good bloody nose and made them pull back. Made them go into...
Well, our technology was different. It didn't mean it was inferior, because...
No,
they didn't have... All the other races had gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Except for Earth, they had to rotate their ships and everything.
Yeah.
But they had... And you don't see this on the other ships, except for the Minbari. They had the interceptor weapons, to where if they are taking fire, they can intercept it. With the other ones, they didn't have that. It was just all offensive. And missiles. Nobody else used missiles except for Earth.
Yeah.
The mass drivers that come in later, but still.
Yeah, but that's a different type. That's a different type of tech and everything in and of itself. It's not necessarily missile projectiles. It's taking, I guess, what they used or anything. If I remember correctly, they took asteroids or something, and were using them to bombard Narn. Anything Narn Prime or whatever the homeworld of the Narn's called. So. But one other thing I will say, I love the fact that you have the dichotomy or the layered personas of all these characters, because one that really stands out to me, I think this is true for a lot of people who are fans of B5, is Garibaldi. Because he's a security chief and everything there on the station. Because not like any security chief we've seen before, because he has a funny side to him. And unless I'm mistaken, Jerry Doyle was a very good comedic actor and a comedian in his own right. I know I think he did some political commentary or whatnot. But he was, first and foremost, he was kind of a political comedian in some circles or whatever. And he very much brought that comedic vibe and feel to his role as Garibaldi. Because you see him at the end of the episode, there in his quarters with Ambassador Delenn. They're watching...
His second favorite thing in the universe.
But Warner Brothers cartoons.
No, it's particularly Daffy Duck. Because there's that one point later on where he gets lost and G'Kar goes into his room and says, "Is that one of your gods?" And, well, kind of is. Picture Daffy Duck.
The Egyptian god of frustration, I think is what it's called or something. I think it's in like season 2 or 3, and G'Kar is going to search for Garibaldi or whatever. And I think it's Franklin that's in the quarters with him at the time, and G'Kar brings up the painting, the poster of Daffy Duck there on his wall, and he's there. And Delenn's trying to sit there and trying to figure out what the heck does this all mean, because this is so far.
Being so polite and yet so confused.
Yeah, I know. Jeff B. Hey, greetings, sir. Glad you could join us. But yeah, that was one of the great things. That was one of the great through lines of Garibaldi. He was funny. He could make you laugh, but at the same time, there was a other part of his story arc that was kind of tragic, kind of sad. But we do find out he does eventually in the books. You find out it does have a sort of a happy ending.
No,
So-
it's pretty good. Actually, it's really good how his story ends. But
Yeah,
something too that you get introduced in the beginning, and I don't know if you caught this. He
Mhm.
didn't mind the Psycop at all. The P5, the Psycor representative.
yeah, Talia Winters.
He just another
Talked to her like
person.
him. Just
It
talked to her like
came
he
on
was.
later after having to deal with Bester and everybody else, where he really started to hate the Psycor. So
Oh, yeah.
he did his shift. They all have their little, on point A in their process to get to point B. And at the beginning, it's like, come on over to my place. I'll show you my favorite thing in the universe. Well, second favorite thing in the universe.
Yeah. And you've got, and that's the funny thing. If we ever do make proper contact, and it's publicized with alien races, I wonder what they're going to think of our brand of humor. I seriously do. I wonder what
Or do
they're
they
gonna,
even have humor?
And that's a possibility too. Well, you do. I think you do learn in some of the cultures and everything, particularly the Minbari. They do have, they have a funny side to them. They do have. Oh, I think it's Sheridan or somebody talks about the laughing Buddha or something to Delenn or someone.
Right. And
And-
Delenn studied humor for a whole year in Temple.
Yeah, because humor is very much a part of Minbari society, and I imagine it's a look at the Centauri. They are in many respects a very jovial, a very gregarious, a very larger than life personality type of species. They don't do anything halfway. When they go out, they go all out. And they're very ostentatious in how they dress. And you look at the males with their hair, and everything is just dialed up to 11 with them. And they've got a whole pantheon of different types of gods to half a dozen different things. And then, of course, you got the one god and goddess that's got all the appendages everywhere.
Both parts, all 10 of them.
Yeah, I know. And you're
No,
and you
6. I guess it was 6.
something like that, yeah. But and yeah, this is the episode
They
where
remind me of the Renaissance French. Everything excessive, highly gilded, overplayed, and just
I think honestly that was deliberate by Straczynski because he tried to give every race a certain aesthetic. And that was very much the aesthetic feel that I got for the design of Minbari clothing, their culture, their statuary, their architecture, all of that was very much a future-esque Napoleonic French feel. The nobility of the French aristocracy. Whereas with the Minbari, theirs is very much, I would say, Far East influence and so on. That would be because if you look at how they dress and the design of their ships and they again
very Japanese like.
Yeah, Far East, Asian inspiration to that. Not to mention, not only that, but some of their language sounds borderline Far East Asian inspired and everything. Well, like just one small example for the title for the members of the Grey Council, Satai. That has a very Asian feel to it and everything with the phonics of that word and what have you. And not only that, but the fighting pikes that the warrior class and the rangers use. Everything I know work and everything. I've never been able to quite nail down the aesthetic feel for the Narn, however. Theirs has been a little more difficult. I mean,
I think it was deliberately done that way because their society was so much in upheaval. They were more of the way he describes it in the pilot, and other times their planet was immensely green. They were almost jungle-like, then thrown into a desert-type situation after being bombed to oblivion twice.
Yeah.
So they really don't have anything except for survival instinct.
Yeah, theirs is a very aggressive society. If you look at the design of their ships and everything, everything's. I don't want to say it's Klingon-esque because the Klingons have their own aesthetic entirely, but you get this very warrior, very survivalistic, very simplistic feel for the Narn and everything. You get that very much.
I was
Go
thinking
ahead.
about that just a minute ago because you look at the way the white stars are and the Minbari ships. You could tell that there's a Vorlon, for you guys who don't know, the super ancient race, a Vorlon influence, the guys of
Mhm.
order. You look at the Narn and the patterns on their larger ships,
Mhm.
the very focused, straight pointed ends.
Mhm.
To me, it has a kind of a similar aesthetic to the Shadows, and the Shadows had been on their world. So
Mhm.
you could, to me, it's like a dichotomy between the two: the
Yeah.
primitive, the advanced, the warrior versus the um, pious, almost.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah. Well, if you
dignified race.
and if you, I don't know. I know we're jumping ahead a little bit here, but if you remember that one in that two-part episode in season 3, where they go backwards in time 1,000 years to the first Shadow War, and you see those early versions of the Minbari ships are much smaller and everything than what you see in in seasons 1 through 5. They're much more smaller. The design is fairly simple, but the one thing is, it's got the two main fins on the bottom, but then the fin in the middle is much smaller, and the body of the entire ship is much smaller, and everything compared to what their main ships of the line look like. The main ships of the line, you've seen them; they're massive. It's got the three um, finned design and everything. But if you compare what we see in the show and then what you see in that at the end of that two-parter and everything, where that the one station gets taken back in time to the first Shadow War. The Minbari obviously had a big technological leap, and you even get allusion to the fact that the Vorlons did give the Minbari access to their technology, or at least parts of their technology, after the end of the first Shadow War. So you get a lot of different aesthetics from every single race and everything. The only one that doesn't feel necessarily alien is obviously our technology, because this looks like something that we could necessarily build, because it's very metal. It's kind of clunky, modular.
Submarine like.
Yeah, in a manner of speaking, it's like submarines in space or anything. And you get the impression that we could eventually progress technologically to this point. Now, obviously, we didn't build we're not the ones who built the jump gates. I'm not sure they ever say definitively who did build jump gates. It's just I think the Centauri discovered them, or somebody did at some point, because the jump gate technology predates pretty much every single race except for maybe the Vorlons and the Shadows. Everything, they might have even been the ones that did create it, or it could have been the race that lived there on Epsilon 6 or Epsilon 3. Excuse me. So, but
One thing too, I want to getting back to the space combat. There have been a lot of discussions about the um, Earth Alliance fighters.
Oh, the Star Furies, yeah.
Yeah, because even NASA has been toying with that very same design, with having vectors on all four corners, forward and back. The amount of maneuverability that they had, and the person is standing instead of in some type of cockpit where they can. I mean, the later version they're seated, the ones that can go in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But when it comes to fighters, out of just about every sci-fi, it's almost universal that they are the best designed for space combat.
Yeah, the Star Furies, I would agree wholeheartedly with that, because this was a ship that was designed specifically for space combat. It wasn't designed for atmospheric. which gives you the idea that we didn't, at least until I think it's like later on in season 2 or 3, where you start seeing the advanced Star Furies that can go in atmosphere, that we didn't particularly worry about combat on in atmosphere. We worry about more of it in space and everything. So, what would I want to? I think
It makes you wonder why they would feel the need to have something that could enter an atmosphere. Whoever was in, and Straczynski never really pinned it down, but
yeah,
there was a gap in their ability to wage war that for some reason they foresaw the need, when in the series we couldn't tell until they started bombing Mars.
Yeah, because that's, I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I know that B5 does get a wing of the advanced Star Furies that can go in atmosphere eventually.
Yes,
but we don't see them in active use until Clark bombs Mars in season 3, unless I'm in error.
No, they get him after the Mars incident.
Do they get him? Okay, they get him after. Okay,
because oh gosh, why can't I remember? It's the one they won all the awards for. The episode where they break away from Earth.
Oh,
they didn't even get any of those type Ven, because they collected a lot of Star Furies at that point. But it wasn't
Shattered Dreams.
Yes,
that was
yes.
Shattered Dreams. That was the name of the episode.
One of their best episodes in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, because you got that's the episode with Bruce McGill, who played one of the captains and everything for one of the ships there. And then that's the episode where Delenn delivers her famous line.
Yep.
Only one Earth Force captain has survived combat with the Minbari fleet. He is behind me. You are in front of me. If you value your lives, be somewhere else. And they took tail and run.
Yep.
So
my favorite line is still the we're talking about season 1, episode 1.
Yeah.
Needless to say, the show gets a lot bigger than what it is right now at the beginning.
The thing I brought up, this was like the opening concerto of a grand symphony. This was the overture. Or, you could know, this is the overture.
Their instruments.
They're just changing their instruments. They're not ready to let the singer come out on stage just yet. You bring in the brasses, and you bring in the woodwinds, and you bring in the percussion just yet. Everybody's just tuning up, getting ready for the concert. Because honestly, when Straczynski hits it on all cylinders, hits all the chords, tells everybody, "Here's the crescendo."
Right. And one of those big things too that also is the whole episode. You're learning the characters, you're seeing how they can fight in space, this and that and the other, but you get to see how key Babylon 5 is into holding everything together.
Yeah.
All the ambassadors come together. They all work to, prosecute one species because of some offense against another. You start to see how it all works. They lay the foundation. This is what Babylon 5 is. This is the ambassador's embassy. And this is where they, I can't say United Nations because that's never worked right, but it's intended to be the gathering place of the different species to fix their problems. Yeah. And it works in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because at the end of the episode, you have Sinclair bring back a Narn advisor and everything that's been working with the Raiders and uses it as leverage over Shakaar and his bunch and everything, saying, "Do you want us to go public with this?"
Right.
And that's how they were able to get the Narn to back off of the Centauri just a little bit. It's not completely resolved, but it works.
And it was a very smart scene too. You had Ivanova seated,
Mhm.
Garibaldi comes in with the crystals, and Sinclair is there. There's your leadership, all working together. They are a team, and don't mess with this team, or you're
Yeah.
gonna lose.
Yeah. This is almost like your Spock, Bones, and McCoy, except it's Sinclair, Ivanova, and Garibaldi.
Right.
Hold on one second.
Welcome for stopping by. Not my show, of course, but howdy do. I did get your book, by the way. I think I told you that, though. Great Council. Yeah. I got the ebook. So, any questions? Oh, he's back. I was just going to wonder if anyone had any
Hey.
questions about it from the
Hey.
chat.
Hey, Lunga, glad you could stop by, man. Well, greetings from the Great Council. Just not the Babylon 5 Great Council in this case. Thanks for stopping by, Lunga. I appreciate it, as always. So, yeah. Any final thoughts or anything? Because we're coming up on about 45 minutes. I think we've pretty much covered this or anything.
The only thing is because the pilot, any sci-fi, I'll give it a chance as long as it's written well. And the pilot was really, it got me really interested. And the first episode to see, like Geek had said before you had to go,
Yeah.
the aesthetics changed, the characters, the Minbari and the Narn look so much better. It all came together so cleanly that it was exciting to have something. Don't get me wrong, I like Star Trek, but I knew that what Star Trek, the people at Paramount had done to Straczynski, and so I was excited to see that Babylon 5 could hold its own.
Yeah, honestly, I think the great thing about Babylon 5 is it has maintained a cult following for all these years, and
Yep, that's me.
Loki, you're gonna be hard pressed, my friend, because I've got all.
He's got so many pans in the fire that I'm surprised he keeps up with anything except for his show stuff, which is always awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, and folks, we're just getting warmed up here. It only gets better from here. So probably next week we'll cover episode 2, which is Soul Hunter, which is a favorite of mine because it has one of my favorite actors and everything, Morgan Shepherd, who's done a lot of good stuff throughout his career.
I was just wondering if it's okay. I mean, Loki's never seen it before, but it's an old show. Why are we holding back on spoilers?
I don't know. I'm just.
I don't want to ruin the experience for anybody, but gosh, it's been 26 years.
Yeah, that's true. So, hold on one second. I got a phone call.
No, but the first season really is laying groundwork, but when you go from season 1 to season 2, they kind of pull the rug out from underneath you because they have to change lead characters. Yeah, that was an awesome beginning. Well, I'll tell you what. Lars can get on his unicorn and search from the skies for those set of glasses that he wants is on his own. I thought you sent Lars to the hospital anyway. Via chainsaw.
Okay, I leave for 2 seconds. You start talking about chainsaws.
Well, in order to understand the reference, you have to watch the first 8 minutes of Loki's morning show this morning.
I was busy this morning. Unfortunately, where I work, a lot of the students have packed up and left. So it's been an interesting morning, to say the least. So
First 8 minutes. Just
okay,
when you're
I'll
done, you
check.
got a few minutes. Watch the first 8 minutes, and you'll know why.
Okay, I'll
Unicorns
definitely
and
check that out.
chainsaws. I guess it's a unicorn Pegasus and a chainsaw, and a whole lot of fluff.
Yeah. Yeah, but next week, folks, we're going to cover Soul Hunter and everything, and that'll be obviously a lot of fun. So, Adeg, any final thoughts?
No, this was a simple episode. It
It was.
showed how these people work together,
Mhm.
and don't mess with the Earthers.
Yeah, because we'll mess you up. You may knock us down, but we keep being back up. We're like Spider-Man. You may knock us down, but we keep getting back up, and eventually you're gonna make us mad enough, and we're gonna kick your ass.
Yep.
The Shadow certainly learned that lesson.
Yep.
So, all right,
And
folks.
also, you notice too. Total side note: almost every single one of the, it's not all of them, but almost all of the techno mages are humans.
Yeah, I knew that.
They were used by both sides. Spoiler: techno mages were created by the shadows.
Yeah, those wacky shadows. How we love them. What do you want? Oh, that's a dangerous question to ask. Especially if you ask Kosh that. What do you want? He's like, never ask that question. All right. Well, to everybody in the chat, Captain Trek, Loki, Jeff B, Great Council, my good friend from the Grey Order, to my guests, Adega, and to Nobody Geek, Jesse. Thank you all for being here. Hope you all enjoyed. As always, if you are new to my channel, welcome. Make sure if you aren't, share this out with your friends who love Babylon 5, who want a good time, because it looks like we're going to be in for a little bit of a lockdown on a few things. So this is going to be a form of entertainment for a little while. So, as always, folks, thank you for tuning in. I will be doing another stream later this week and everything. This will be probably just a solo stream and everything. And then, of course, this weekend, we're celebrating 230 subscribers with a very special stream. We're going to be talking the filmography of the great one of the great ones himself, John Carpenter. So, hope you all can tune in then and enjoy the stream. If you want to be on the stream, make sure you shoot me a DM, and I'll make sure to put you on the panel. And until next time, folks.
If you have a Babylon 5 without me, I will be upset.
You can count on it, Dega, as always. So, folks, again, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you hit those like and share buttons. If you hadn't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Everyone is appreciated and welcome. And as always, folks, it is awesome to have you all around. And until next time, this is the Ambassador and Adega signing off.